What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. Labour MP Barry Gardiner appeared on Sky News earlier today answering questions about Brexit, the election and of course Labour's insane policies that even the Ramonin CBI have condemned as dangerous to the UK economy. In true Labour fashion, he provides us with another car crash interview, not quite on the level of Diane Abbott's recent TV appearances, but still worthy of picking apart, since he either does not understand some of the questions asked or has no idea what he's actually talking about. I will leave you to decide which one you think it is, so let's see what this tit had to say.
Look, in terms of the business plan, the CBI has already raised concerns about what the Labour Party is proposing, particularly this part nationalisation of British Telecom, the open reach aspect of all of that. They say it could crack the economy. What can Jeremy Corbyn say today to bring them back on side?
Well, look, I remember when the CBI said that a minimum wage would crack the economy. It was going to cause greater unemployment and cause businesses to go out of business. In fact, the economy grew, we had greater employment because there was greater wealth coming into the economy. But let me tackle the question on broadband in particular. If you and I were sitting here 250 years ago, there would be tolls on our roads. And people thought that was the only way to finance roads. And then some bright economist one morning woke up and said, look, actually, if you take the tolls away, what happens is you get more trade. People trade more, and therefore there's more wealth in the economy. There's more jobs in the economy, and on that prosperity, you can pay for more roads. Now, what we're doing is we're doing exactly the same for the 21st century. We're saying it makes sense to have this infrastructure rolled out to every part of our economy. At the moment, if you're a business in rural areas, the broadband connection, if you've got one, is appalling. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that it's there, it's free at the point of use, and that's the way in which we should be preparing for the future of our economy.
Now, the Sky host brings up what I referenced earlier in my introduction about the CBI's fears Labour's free broadband policy could crack the economy, which is probably right, providing one of his other batshit crazy policies don't do it first. This Labour idiot immediately rubbishes the credibility of the CBI, which is extremely hypocritical considering 95% of Labour MPs and Ramonas in almost every media company have quoted the CBI in their Project Fear campaigns over the last 3 years. It's amazing how the CBI is not right to the Labour Party when it's not saying what they want it to. I mean, he is not wrong when he says that the CBI talks rubbish, but you can't promote their opinions one week, then rubbish their credibility the next, because their current opinion does not suit your narrative. But his argument for the Corbynated Chicken's free broadband makes absolutely no sense to me, and I have listened to his answer 10 times now. How is the fact that abolishing tolls on the roads increased trade relevant to the Labour Party essentially confiscating a profitable arm of a private company for a price that Parliament will set? Not the actual sum it's worth, should another company choose to buy it. Because let's be honest, abolishing road tolls did not require the government to nationalise a private company worth around 25 billion. Then have to spend another £80 billion more of taxpayer money building nationwide broadband infrastructure, and then provide this so-called free broadband service at a cost of more than £5 billion a year from the public purse. When tolls on the roads got abolished, the local trade did not pay to maintain and build new roads. New taxes did, obviously. I agree it makes sense to have good broadband everywhere, but there is no sense or good reason for a government to do it using the public purse. Surely it would be cheaper to subsidise the companies already own the infrastructure so they can build the infrastructure faster. At least that way, the taxpayer is not lumbered with ongoing costs relating to the supply of this service after buying the company and then building all the infrastructure. Now really, the government should stay out of it and just allow these companies market competition to push them towards delivering better broadband. The government jumping in is just going to be a massive waste of money to the taxpayer. How has that basic fact escaped him?
Well, we haven't got time to go through all that whole argument again, but on any aspect of nationalisation, and particularly with the broadband issue, there may be a long-term argument there, but the problem is that it's costing it, isn't it? And the costing that the Labour Party has come up with so far, yet to see it all in the manifesto, of course, is, according to all the expert analysis, about a quarter of what it would actually cost.
No, look, you will know that actually during the last election campaign, Labour was the only party that fully costed our manifesto proposals. And we will do so again. And you'll see that coming out later on this week. But what we're doing is we're investing £250 billion in the infrastructure of this country. That's a huge amount of investment, but everybody knows that our infrastructure simply is not working. Our trains are overcrowded. People can't get a seat on a train in the morning to go to work. They're having to pay exorbitant amounts of money to get there. Whether it's the train service, whether it's the health service, whether it's broadband, we need to renew our infrastructure. And this announcement that you mentioned about climate change apprenticeships is absolutely gearing up our economy with the skills that we need in the future. And those skills are transferable. Those are the skills that we'll be able to export to the rest of the world, because they need wind turbines as well. They need solar power as well. They need to be able to create the ground source heat pumps to heat our homes efficiently. These are the skills that we're creating, and that means that we're going to be at the forefront of these new technologies in the future.
Now, as I mentioned in my video about Labour's broadband communism last week, experts claimed Labour's estimates are miles off, and given historic evidence of government-run schemes running well over budget, I would say even experts' estimates of 100 billion might be on the low side. Couple that with the fact Barry Gardiner said Labour plans to spend another 250 billion on infrastructure, meaning we don't even need to see Labour's manifesto to know they will bankrupt the country, while sending any profitable global business running for the hills with their plans to tax their global wealth rather than profits made in the UK. Providing, of course, they don't decide to confiscate them like they plan with BT's Openreach business, along with utilities and the trains. Because remember, if they will do it to big business, it's only a matter of time before they will do it to the average Joe. And with their free broadband controlled by the Corbynated chicken supporters, spying on your every move online while feeding you their propaganda and likely blocking any websites that might offer you a different point of view in what you could all consider China 2.0. His apprenticeship nonsense makes no sense either, since he claims it would be a good thing for Britain if we spend millions of pounds training British workers in skills we need and then send them abroad to work in other countries. Because that will help our economy a lot, won't it, you absolute idiot? Because what he's saying there is, let's send skilled, high-paid workers to other countries, removing their tax from this public purse after the government has subsidised their training to become these skilled workers, therefore putting none of the money back that it costs to train them. Because sending high-skilled workers that you've trained to other countries, removing their tax from the public purse, is obviously a good idea. How does he not see the stupidity in what he just said? Immigration of skilled workers does not benefit the country they left, since it's not only removing a valuable skill the country needs to improve its economy and the standard of living for its citizens, it's also a monumental waste of money and a loss of tax revenue, as I said. It does go to show that Labour would happily export the UK's skilled workers after paying to train them because it values the unskilled or non-worker that is more likely to vote for their everything free policies.
But what we've heard from business over the best part of 4 years now is that they, and we know this as a fact, they don't like uncertainty, and they didn't like the uncertainty of the Brexit referendum and the result and where we are at the moment. They don't like that at all.
No, they've had 3 years of a government incapable of delivering. And that's why we're coming in and saying, look, we've listened to business.
No, but forgive me, but the problem with Labour is you're not actually providing them with any certainty, are you? Because Boris Johnson's going to say today, I know you don't like it, but this is how we're going to sort it out. Get the deal through, this is how we sort it out. You're saying, well, look, if we get elected, we'll try to renegotiate a deal. If we do, we'll put it to a referendum. We're not going to tell you what side of that referendum we're going to fight on. And therefore, business is left with another 6 months minimum of absolute uncertainty.
Look, nothing is more damaging to this country than the division, the dither and the delay that the Conservatives have put our country through over the past 3 years.
Well, that bit there was an absolute peach. The Labour MP actually sits there and blames the Tories for dither and delay regarding Brexit, which to an extent Theresa May did facilitate, deliver and delay, but not to the level of Labour and the Lib Dems. No one likes Maybot because she tried to sell us out with complete vassalage to the EU, which was literally Brexit in name only. But the dither and delay has been caused by the opposition parties actively working against what the British people voted for. And since Boris took over, it has literally been the Lib Dems, Labour and the smaller irrelevant parties who have delayed Brexit, with the help of course of the 21 Tory traitors, former Speaker of the House John Burcuck and Lady Hale in the Supreme Court, who essentially ended the government's ability to use an executive power to deliver what the people asked for. It's completely disingenuous to blame the Tories for dither and delay, though they of course played their part. The blame should lay at the feet of Parliament itself, because the opposition and Speaker of the House have been working flat out to stop Brexit from the very day Leave won the referendum. As the host said during the clip, the Labour Party want to have another referendum after making their own so-called amazing deal that they would then likely campaign against. Did this idiot really not think about how stupid he would sound saying the Tories are about dither and delay, when Labour are neck deep in it themselves? A serious question needs to be asked about who makes Labour's policies and instructs these MPs on what to say when they go on telly. Whoever it is really needs to be sacked, because they don't ever make these MPs look good in them, that's for sure.
What Labour is doing is saying this: we will reunite our country. You've got two parties that are offering the extremes. One, a right-wing extreme, almost a no-deal Brexit. The other, to revoke and ignore the wishes of half of our fellow citizens who voted, 17.4 million of them, in that referendum to leave. We're saying, no, you can't ignore either side. What you have to do is you have to create a viable, a credible deal. We know what that is. We've spoken to the Commission. We've spoken to Barnier.
Yes, but you don't know whether you haven't said whether you're going to back it.
But the point is, we then present that to the public. It's not about the politicians. Very often we in the Westminster bubble think it's about us. It's not. It's about the people of this country, and the Labour Party is the only party in this election that is giving you, the people, the final say.
To call the Tories an extreme party is ridiculous. The Lib Dems are pretty extreme, but let's be honest here. The most extremist party in the UK is the Labour Party. Not only because they're only the second party in history to be investigated for racism, but because their leader openly calls terrorist organisations friends. And let's not forget their extremist policies I have discussed many times before. The absolute rank hypocrisy when Labour calls anyone extreme. Wanting Brexit does not make you extreme right-wing. It makes you democratic, you idiot. You know, democracy spoke, so wanting to honour that voice is not extreme. And to complain about the Lib Dems revoking policy, which he claims ignores 17.4 million people's votes, is yet more hypocrisy. What does Labour think a second referendum is, if not ignoring 17.4 million people's votes? I mean, technically, to hold a second referendum before enacting the decision from the first is ignoring more than 33 million people's votes and essentially making them worthless, so could arguably be considered just as bad as the Lib Dems policy, if not worse. It's not democratic at all to do either, in my opinion, so this idiot really needs to shut his mouth. Him saying you shouldn't ignore either side is flat wrong also. It's not about ignoring the Remain vote. Democracy was a choice between two. Everyone voted knowing one choice would win and the other would lose. When you voted, you accepted that fact. As it turned out, Remain lost, which means Remain voters then backed the decision of the winners, which is how democracy works. So it's not ignoring the Remain vote, it's called delivering on the choice the country made collectively. MPs pushing to ignore the democratic wishes of this country's citizens have been the main factor in dividing the country. How this Labour MP is too dense to realise that is beyond me. I guess it goes to show they just don't live in the real world. That was another car crash interview full of rank hypocrisy Ramonas would be proud of. These TV presenters are such babies though when it comes to calling out MP's blatant lies. The amount of complete dribble coming out of Ashworth's mouth was ample ammunition to make him squirm in his chair. Such a shame, but it seems Labour MPs' TV interviews are never disappointing because they always make themselves crash and burn upon opening their mouth. I guess that's why presenters don't bother giving them a hard time, because they know a Labour MP will sabotage their own interview with their stupidity. But on that note, I'm going to end the video there, guys. I think I've waffled on enough. But before I go, the channel was approved for membership features recently. So if you want to join up, the option is next to the subscribe button on the channel's homepage. Now, as always, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon and Subscribestar members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
This Parliament is a dead Parliament. It should no longer sit. It has no moral right to sit on these green benches. They don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats, while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace. But they're too cowardly to give it a go. But the time is coming. The time is coming, Mr. Speaker, when even these turkeys won't be able to prevent Christmas.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.